Hi folks, welcome to another Dinosaur tutorial. Today we're going to be jumping into a notebook and doing the HPCIC, High Performance Computing Innovation Center tutorial. Flux is one of them and there are many others. I will put this link for you in the description so you can explore. What's that you say? Why am I wearing a dinosaur in my head? Why should I not be wearing a dinosaur on my head? Why aren't you wearing a dinosaur on your head? There are much bigger questions. So let's get started. So what I've already done is I have cloned our GitHub repository just to show you where this is. This is at Converge Computing Flux Tutorials. This will also be in the description notes. And once we're here, we're going to go into tutorial. And we've kind of seen a lot of these before. Actually, some of them you haven't seen because I haven't released them yet. Just don't look at those. We're going to go clear, nothing to see here. So we're going to go into Notebook, and very naively, we're going to go open up the README and see what we have. So this is going to be Flux with Jupyter, and just to give you some context, if you look at, so these, if you've never participated in one of the more formal Flux tutorials where they don't wear dinosaur hats, definitely not as fun. No, I'm just kidding. This is where we keep the code for these. And so a lot of these are really cool setups where you have an entire Jupyter spawner sort of deal. So you, as the participant, log into a browser and you kind of have your own little notebook. But on the back end, there's an entire Kubernetes cluster with auto scaling with the Jupyter spawner. Super cool. And so the tutorial that I'm going to show you today is a derivative from that, but it's hugely kind of simplified. So I've removed a lot of the extra ML stuff that made the container build really chonky, mostly because when I was trying to build it just now, I got really impatient and I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And I've also just simplified things quite a bit. So this tutorial, though, is a local version of this. So I just want to give kind of a shout out to all the work that was done on that one. So I've already done this, but I'm just going to show you. This would be me pretending to be you. I cannot do a good job doing you, but I already built this. It didn't actually take that long, so that would be it. Then we create a network. This network already exists for me, but I'll just do it for funsies. Alrighty, so we're going to do a Docker run. This says Docker run, remove the thing, the container after you're done. IT is an interactive terminal. The entry point is start. Mount the Docker sock. We're going to use the network we just made called Jupyter Hub. We're going to name the container Jupyter Hub, and we're going to bind port 8888 from the container to our host so that we can see the notebook. And then we're going to run the Flux tutorial container that we just built. So shall we? Yes, we shall. So this will spin up. And Jupyter is really nice because it gives you all these links to click. And so this is the one I usually click, the one with localhost. This is technically the host name. That's a Docker container name if you've ever seen one. I don't think that one would actually work, but this one, ooh, that's bright. This one will absolutely work. So when you start here, your navigation and everything that you need is on this side. Here is the main tutorial. And then there's kind of other stuff you can jump into. But let's jump into the main tutorial. I guess I could have clicked the button. So this is basically going to walk you through things. So you don't technically need me here. I am going to kind of walk you through it. So welcome to the Flux tutorial. Flux is resource management. It's built for your site. As we already mentioned, it doesn't just run on sort of bare metal HPC, either as a system instance or under Slurm. You can also run it in Kubernetes as an operator. You can use the scheduler to have a custom scheduler plugin. We actually have a new project that has it in between that. You can also run it in a container now, a container that is serving a notebook. It's real. Flux is totally agnostic. It does not care where you're running it. It will deliver kind of the same capabilities, which is really cool for learning, development, and using it. Flux is also the new system level scheduler on El Capitan, which we refer to as El Cap, which was the number one. Yeah, no one cares about that anymore. Okay, so let's get started. How do we do this tutorial? Well, there's going to be 3 parts, and we're only doing the first today because, to be frank, I don't even think my attention span will last into part 2 or 3. We're going to be getting started with Flux. So this video here, so if you're not familiar with notebooks, when you press Shift-Enter, which I just did, and I didn't even think about it. It's like in my brain. That will run or render the cell. So that's a little trick that you likely will want to know as we're going through this. Let's see, where's the scroll bar? Oh, there's the scroll bar. Let me see. Is there any way to make this darker? I just can't. I can't think out what's going on right now. Let's see. View. Oh, appearance. No. Kernel tools. Run kernel. Theme. Oh, dark. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Okay. So now we're going to continue without me being blind. So this is my colleague Tapasya, and she's an expert in scheduling and power management. I won't play this here now because I'm not sure it would actually work because I don't think I'm sharing my sound, but I will share this link. This video is also a little bit old, but it still really well reflects some of the core features of Flux. So let's keep scrolling, getting started with Flux. Now, very logically, you may be someone that asks for help before you try things. I am not. I usually try things and then learn the hard way. But if you do like to ask for help before you actually just blindly type in commands, there is a Flux help. This shows the basic groups of commands for running and submitting jobs and allocating resources, listing and interacting with jobs, getting resources, and other useful commands. We're going to be going through a lot of these today. Now, Flux help jobs, this is basically saying, like, give me help for a specific command there. So when I do that, basically what is that the right scroll bar? Oh, there we go. Basically what you're seeing there is the man page. Now, in this notebook, I find the notebook environment kind of limited. I feel like I'm in a box and I'm like, I don't want to, you can't put me in a cell. What was that from Dirty Dancing? Nobody puts baby in a corner. Yeah, nobody puts a dinosaur in a cell. So there's also a button that will open and give us a actual terminal. So Flux resource lists, which is something we're about to talk about. So we're going to be jumping over here just based on my ability to tolerate working in a cell, which isn't very good. I'll give you a heads up for that. Also scrolling. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is resources. And if you've seen some of my other tutorials, you've probably seen me type Flux resource list. This is the very logical thing you want to do when you shell into a new cluster or new instance. You want to say, like, Flux, show me the resources that I have. And so here we see, wait a minute, 4 nodes, 32 cores. How is that possible on my doopy little computer? It is possible because when we start Flux, under Flux start, you can give it a test size. And so we're saying, give me a test size of 4 nodes. And so yes, we are in one container, but we're sort of emulating having more resources, primarily for testing and learning. So that's a really cool feature of Flux for tutorials. So that is Flux resource lists. If you're interested in more and learning about its configuration files, so for example, how the instance was configured, that's the link here. Now, Flux resource as a command group is what's going to tell you about the status of resources. So just as an example, if I do Flux resource status, this says, okay, you have four nodes. You really do, wink, wink. You have 4 nodes that are up. Okay, there they are. If you recognize these are Docker URIs. And you might also want to see queues. So this actually isn't something that I type very often because I mostly deploy Flux in cloud environments where, like, there's one queue, the default queue, and like I don't need to know about, debug and worker and all these special things. But if you do need to know about queues, you type this, and because this isn't really configured, it just says we have infinite resources, which I'm sure is true, right? Okay, let's jump into Flux commands. So this is what I like to think of as the Jobsetta stone, the Rosetta Stone. It's very tiny. It's a very tiny stone because it's only between Slurm and Flux. And it's primarily about running things. So if you're a user that's very familiar with Slurm, you might want to come here every once in a while if you want to kind of cross-reference. And so we're going to be talking about all these. I will note that there are a couple of commands in Flux for submit, bulk submit, and watch that we didn't find perfect analogies for in Slurm. And if anyone knows of commands that exist and would like us to update this tutorial, please let us know. Generally speaking, there's different ways to submit jobs that are either interactive or not. And then there's kind of, these go well together. And you'll actually see a difference in command style here. So Flux takes more of a Go command style. If you're familiar with Go and use a lot of Go tools, you usually have the first name of the tool and then kind of the sub command. And Slurm takes an approach where it's like srun, scancel, salloc. Another example, I think Charlie Cloud does that too, where you generate a bunch of different binaries of names to remember. Actually, I think a lot of job managers do that now that I think about it. Okay, let's run some jobs, shall we? So the easiest one is Flux run, and this is notable because it is blocking. So if I Flux run lamp, like if I Flux run hostname, it's gonna immediately return. But if I Flux run something that's going to be streaming output, I'm going to see all that output show, and it is going to be blocked. Let's see. Let's do Flux run hostname, Flux run bin dash c hostname and sleep 5 and hostname. This is a great script. Sleep. See, okay, there, so that shows you that it's blocking. Now let's say that I did that. And now, though, I want to see the output of that. Hostname, it's going to block. Okay, great. Now we're going to say, okay, I really want to get my last job that I ran. So we're going to say job ID equals Flux job last. What's the job ID? Now we can do Flux job attach the job ID and get that output again. Okay, so that. Now, this is different from Flux submit, which is not blocking, but is going to give you back a job ID. So Flux run hostname is that. Flux submit hostname. Now there's a subtle difference here. This is actually the hostname. Yes. This is a Flux job ID. So if I do that command Flux jobs, here's all my job IDs. There's the one that failed. It's red. Oh, I can't look at it. So let's see. The last one we ran, job ID. Again, this should also work. Flux job last, Flux job attach, job ID. There you go. Okay, so to summarize, Flux run is blocking. Flux submit is not blocking. Both of them give you a job ID, which you can use with Flux job attach to see your output. By the way, both run and submit support a bunch of different flags. So different ways to label things, a time limit, an environment, remove, add, just the regular environment commands. Submit supports all of the things. Actually, run does too, like the number of nodes, the number of tasks, the cores per task. There's shorthands for that. Okay, so Flux bulk submit. This enqueues job based on a set of inputs, and it's kind of similar to XR because I have a feeling that the Flux developers were thinking of XR just when they developed this, or parallel. I don't use this a ton, but I'll show you what it looks like. So basically, it's kind of mapping foo, bar, and baz into these 3 jobs. There you see that there they are output, and there's the job IDs. Now, carbon copy is kind of cool. I must admit, it took me a while to be like, oh, wait, CC, carbon copy. Yeah, okay. So carbon copy is going to make it kind of map across some ID set. So for example, here, take a look at that and think about what you think it's going to do. And I'm going to run it. So in this case, we didn't do any kind of templating. So it just submit 4 jobs, which is what we'd expect. Okay, so let's try it in the Jupyter Lab terminal because we're going to be submitting quite a lot of jobs here. Watch progress. So these are some other features that I don't think I've shown before. Just to give you a heads up, I typed this out and I kind of paused it. So Flux submit, 1 through 100, walks, projects, JPS hostname. Are you ready? Woo! So we got this nice little progress bar and yeah, some cool little features that probably the developers enjoyed adding. Okay, putting this all together, we are going to use carbon copy to submit identical jobs using this mustache template with CC. We're going to do Flux submit, and then we're just going to look at the last one, the output, to make sure that it printed what we want it to. And it did. By the way, this won't work with run. I tried it. I'm not sure why. Here's a couple of other examples with carbon copy that you can try on your own. Let's run the second example here and add a clever trick to ask for output as we submit the jobs. I know what this one is. Okay, so this one is going to basically do what we just did. It's going to be doing little jobs in the Flux workflows. And you'll see, this is great. I wrote this one. Once upon a time, there was a little duck. Her name was Pizza Quack. She was very fond of cheese and running Flux, of course, right? Because, cheese and Flux go hand in hand. And so she ran Flux while she ate her cheese and was happy to the end. What a great story! Who wrote that? I don't answer that question. Okay. And this is actually showing an example of adding a job name. So if I did Flux jobs A here, we would see the name. So I've run this a few times. We've run quite a few jobs, lots of host name. That's what happens with that. Okay, so let's now look at Flux Watch. So this is a really cool one. It's kind of like run in the sense that it blocks, but this is a separate command where like you can submit it, you make your sandwich and you change your mind, you come back and you want to watch it and you don't want to do Flux job attach. So we are going to do an example with that. This is going to be a script we submit from the examples directory. I'm not going to tell you what it is. So notice this is submit. So this will give back a job ID. And then we're going to use Flux Watch, Flux job last to watch it. Let me scroll down a little bit more so you don't miss any of the fun. 25 chocolate chip pancakes on the table. 25 chocolate chip pancakes. Eat a stack for a snack. 15 chocolate chip pancakes on the table. 15 chocolate chip pancakes on the table. 15 chocolate chip pancakes. Throw a stack. It makes a smack. 15 chocolate chip pancakes on the wall. You got some cleaning to do. That was absolutely terrible, but that was pretty fun. Okay, so Flux jobs we've already talked about. This is how you look at your jobs. If you just do Flux jobs, then you just see the ones that are kind of active, so pending, running. These are ones that we told to like sleep forever, so they're still going to be there. If you want to see all the jobs, which I did before, it's going to be a very large output. Then you just add the little A. Oh, it looks like that scrolls. I'm not going to scroll. Okay, cancel. This is also really important. So this was previously this command, flux cancel all F. Kind of weird. Now it's just flux cancel all. So let's cancel all those sleeping jobs. And now they're gone. That was easy. Okay, so if you want to create an allocation, an interactive allocation, this is similar to salloc, except it's flux alloc. So this might be, we look for the resources we have, we ask for an allocation with 2 nodes, and then we do flux resource lists. So let's do that here. Clear. So flux resource list. What do we have to play with? So let's do flux alloc N2. Now, what resources do we have? Only 2 nodes. So remember, Flux has a hierarchical design. So we just started with, there's a lead broker at the top, and that lead broker is going to have maybe 3 children. It totally depends on the design of the topology. But assuming that, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3. We then say, okay, I want an instance with 2 nodes. So basically, we then bite off 2 of those nodes. And our new lead broker, the instance ID 0, for example, is now one of those 2 nodes. So now we're in the sub instance and we do flux resource list. We only see that we have 2 nodes. So you can kind of, up to whatever level of depth and size that you have, you can keep kind of partitioning off the graph. You can create a batch job that has a huge amount of flux resources and then partition them off for certain parts of your job. So for example, I'm going to give this part for my ML analysis that needs lots of GPUs. I'm going to have another instance that's working on this. At the, when those are finished, I'll use it for something else. It's a very cool design for some of these new modern workflows that need something greater than kind of running something embarrassingly parallel. So flux batch is like that command commit similar to spatch, where you give it like a batch script that will have kind of directives at the top. So in Slurm, it is sbatch, and you'll say like sbatch number of nodes. So do we have a sleep batch.shell? Let's see, I think we do. Let's open that up and take a look. So here's our sleep batch. Akin to Slurm, we have these directives at the top where you basically just take the command line flag and you put it alongside Flux like that. So here's what we're going to do in our batch job, Flux resource lists. And then we're going to run Flux run on 2 nodes 2 times. And remember, this is blocking. You could also have something in here that does Flux submit, and they'll both be running at the same time. It's totally up to you how you want to start your batch job. Also, in the case of, for example, user space Kubernetes, the way that we're designing that is that when a user submits a batch job and they ask for usernetties, in a Prolog script, we're going to be bringing up a total usernetties cluster in user space just for them within the context of this batch job. So by the time that, they get to this or this line, by the time their batch job starts, they'll be able to run kubectl commands, create services, running all alongside standard, the HPC simulation stuff. Then when the job finishes up, the epilogue is what will clean up that user space Kubernetes. It's really cool. We have the cloud setups that I think I've showed, but we'll have the on-premises working soon. So speaking of batch, let's run this. Not sure why this is run twice, but YOLO, we'll go with it. Maybe I copy pasted it. You'll notice that these output files popped up. This is where they'll get written. You can customize that with .out and .air or direct them to the same file, and output and air will be written in the same file. So this is how you kind of control your output for Flux. I think that's the same as with Slurm. Okay, so now we're going to do what I just said. We're going to say, okay, I want to write to temp cheese, and I want to say a poem. So we're going to show, and we'll show jobs after that. Okay, so let's look in temp for our output. Is it there? It is. Sweet dreams are made of cheese. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world in 7 seas. Everybody's looking for GPUs. Now, Flux job info is what is going to give us like information about the job. So here's an example where we're going to do Flux job info. Give me the last job and show me the resource spec. That is what R is. After that, we're going to attach to it, and this is going to show the output file. So here is the resource spec. This is called RLite in terms of the format. It has like ranks and children and cores and your node lists. And this is saying, okay, your output is redirected to temp cheese. And then because we just imported it in that IPython notebook, it actually shows us that output, which we just sang about, which was much more fun, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Okay. We can also see the completed jobs still. So next, we're going to talk about, boom, Flux exec, which is under the category of process monitoring and job utilities. I love this command. So the basic idea of Flux exec is like, send this command to all the other workers in the instance. So for this first command, this is saying, okay, send Flux exec, R is rank, so all ranks, echo, hello from a Flux rank. Hello from a Flux rank. You can also use X to exclude stuff. So this says, do the same thing except exclude the lead broker, which is number 0. This is actually what I use to set up usernetties on a cluster on the cloud that doesn't have a shared file system, because I can SSH into one lead node and then execute the commands to all the other nodes, regardless of how large the cluster is, that basically bootstraps usernetties, starts it, connects back to the lead broker. And there's another command I love that is going to help us a little more than that. So here, this is going to show us specifically that we actually get a rank. So we can actually do R all. There's all our ranks. Now, my next favorite command is Flux archive, because this is what's going to allow you to save your a little archive, a little secret, snack pack of your favorite file snacks. In the case of the usernetties example, there's a join key, a join command that we have to send to the workers that it's going to have the kubelet authenticate with the control plane, where the control plane is the lead broker. And so that's what we do. So here's an example. What are we doing here? So we're creating a shared file. Back to the cheese thing, aren't we? Okay. So we're going to do Flux archive create. It's going to be called my archive. The directory is the present working directory, and it's going to include this file. If you had a second file, you would put it here. If you had a directory, you would put it here. You basically just the content after that. So this will create the archive. And we also see that we have our shared file that was created here because we just created it. Now, technically speaking, we don't have different file system. So this is going to be like the same file. The way that we use Flux exec to extract an archive to the other node. So we do Flux exec, and because I created the archive on the node where I am, I don't want to do it there again. So I'm going to exclude the lead one, but I'm going to do all ranks. And then I'm going to actually do Flux exec and then Flux archive extract, name my archive. The directory is still going to be the present working directory. You know what, let's try running it here. I think it's going to tell me the file already exists. Yeah, so attempt to override existing file. Side note, we don't actually have shared nodes. This will not work. Mayday, abort, abort demo, abort demo. So when you're done with your archive, you can do Flux archive remove. Also note that in earlier versions of Flux, this was called file map. And for larger archives, when you do create, you'll want to use the, so if I did like Flux archive create, you'd want to use the mmap flag. We're coming in, hopefully close to the ending. So Flux uptime, uptime, funk you up. Uptime, funk you up. Burr, burr, burr. Okay, so did someone say uptime? Please link to a music video. Yes, yes, yes. Burr, burr. Okay, we're not gonna do that now. We're not gonna do that now. I'm very tempted, but we're not gonna do that now. So Flux uptime tells us how long I've been struggling through this tutorial. Okay, 53 minutes. That's a long time for me to talk to myself. I should probably finish this up. Flux top is what you'd imagine. Submit, sleep 10, Flux top. Ah, there we go. Yeah, this is a really cool command. Like this little F, it's really cute. I like this command a lot. Okay. With Flux proxy, it's a way to connect to a running Flux instance. So or actually a job ID in this case. So here's the example with a job ID. What I'll usually do when I'm running a Kubernetes cluster is I'll bring up my cluster, that will start Flux, and then I'll shell in and I'll do Flux proxy, a local URI, and then it'll be like mount Flux, view run Flux, and it's usually called local, and then you do bash and you connect to it. So Flux proxy is very useful. So Flux proxy works with a job ID, it works with a local path, it works with an SSH. There's a bunch of different URIs that you can provide. Those are the most common that I use. Coming up, so Flux queue, this is kind of an admin command. So this is what you might want to say, okay, we're going to disable it. There's a maintenance outage. Then we're going to enable it again. Flux get attribute is a way to get an attribute on your instance or on something. So for example, here's where I get the rank. Here's where I'm going to get the size. Here's the local URI. So this will tell us if the one that I thought we were connected to is the one. Get the logging level. And then we're going to list with V. Okay, so here's the rank. We're on the lead broker. Here's the size. We have 4 nodes. Here's the path, so that I was correct, that this is kind of the instance that the notebook is running. And then here's all the cool attributes that you can programmatically get from Flux just from this little command. This is like a little gold mine of programmatic goodies in here. Okay, this is a little more advanced, but Flux is basically put together with different modules. So if we do Flux module list, we see all of the components that are working right now to make Flux what it is. Flux also has a dmesg command, which is extremely helpful for debugging, and it has nice colors too. I think that might be why I like it, because it has nice colors. So this is where, like, when something goes wrong with Flux when I'm developing, I will look here in Flux dmesg. Now, Flux start is what started this notebook, and this is just for interactively starting a set of resources. There's also a Flux broker command where you can kind of emulate the same thing. I think we're going to stop here for today. We'll have another tutorial where we'll go over the Flux Python API and then some of the more internals. And yeah, so when you're done with your notebook, you can actually just Control-C. And that's it. And the notebook will be gone. So that's it. Alrighty, so thanks folks for attending today. I hope it wasn't too terrible. I haven't looked at this in a long time. I will see you next time. Bye. HPC, you HP, and then you C, and then you D, E, F, G. Okay, that's done. That's not right. Okay. Laundry is like, there's one sure thing, there's taxes and death, and then there's my laundry machine. What the heck is going on here?